In this video, we are building this beautiful snowy winter landscape. It all started on an empty board, on a foam insulation panel from the hardware store, where we simply set up a semicircle with a switch, allowing two locomotives to shuttle back and forth from left to right. So here we have already prepared quite a bit, namely, I have completed the base for this diorama, using a lot of things that were left over in the workshop, old cardboard boxes or old diorama parts that I cut a bit short. And from all this, we now have this stable base. However, since this layout is supposed to lie on a table plan later, we can't drill any holes to pull cables through later. We need to finish this now. For that, we need some cables, a soldering iron, some heat shrink tubing, and we can just make it nice now. And when the cables are nicely laid out like here, then comes the part about making the landscape. And for that, we need this terrain crepe paper. So we just need a bit of hot glue and a bit of patience and stick this crepe paper here on one side. I'll start here, and you can already do this on a large scale. Be careful with your fingers, the glue is hot. It's best to use something to press it down, like a small brush or something, so you don't burn your fingers. I also unscrewed the signal. You can take it off the base, you just have to remove these small plates here, and then you can also remove the signal here below, then you can plaster it better on the side. As a base, I'm using a model railway mounting putty, which can be worked with for a particularly long time, and it's just stirred into water like plaster. And when everything is plastered, the plaster has to dry a bit. And while that's happening, you can think a bit about the decoration. I brought some figures, for example, some small figures carrying Christmas trees back and forth. Then we have some little ice skaters here, for which we would need a lake, right? And then I brought some snow-covered cars here on the side. They are already a bit snowed in. We could theoretically do that ourselves as well. I tried it out on this small Austrian locomotive, which has already suffered a bit during construction. But here, this is my test locomotive, and here we see how the whole thing is snowed in. We can do that ourselves later with a flocking material. The same goes for the trees. So you can theoretically buy snow-covered trees already, but the ones we have here are still very, very rudimentarily snowed in. You don't see much of the powder snow yet. It looks much better on this tree here, but we can also do that ourselves with this icing sugar, and the same with these tree blanks that you can buy. Here we see, for example, a deciduous tree as raw material, and you can also flock it yourself later with a snow powder. And when the plaster is dry, we go to work with a bristle brush and the snow paste and craft ourselves some nice little snow piles and, for example, snow-covered roofs. Instead of the bristle brush, you could also use a spatula. That would also be a possibility for the house, to work on it a bit more extensively. And after countless brush strokes, your layout should look something like this. I made it very thick here to create a really nasty fresh snow landscape. So this is Powderhausen, and it looks really nice now. Lots of fresh snow here on the roof, lots of it. You can of course take less, but this way you get a real winter landscape. The next order of things is a matter of opinion. First glue and flock the layout, or first glue the little trees. Then it's time for the snowflakes, and it works similarly to greening. First, a glue is applied to the layout, in this case a snow glue, and then there's a scatter grass can. You could also do the whole thing with a static grass applicator, but first I will now cover the layout extensively with this snow glue. Very important, shake the snow glue well beforehand. So now simply glue extensively with the brush, just once completely over the entire layout, so that you can later powder extensively over the layout with the icing sugar here, with the spray can and this snowflake material. So really powder it nicely, cover everything extensively with these snowflakes, and very important, please let it dry for a long time, because later you can simply vacuum it off again where it's excessive, for example, on the tracks. And if you don't let it dry long enough, then of course you'll just vacuum off all the beautiful material again. Well, and when it's dried out, your winter diorama will probably look just like here in front of me on the layout, with many little details, like our little market here, and our skiers getting ready for the ski trip on the trail with cross-country skiing, our ice skaters, which I've put here in the middle, and our many little details. like the snow-covered VW Beetle, and of course also the beautiful shuttle train with the 2 locomotives, which make their stop here at this platform, and also come to a stop on the other side.